Hi there, this is Doug. I figured I'd start out my little video blog here of creating a bicycle. I'm going to be building a recumbent bicycle based on the plans that I bought and downloaded from Atomic Zombie. So here's the main plan that I'm going to be basing this bicycle off. It's called the High Racer. Or actually high roller, short wheelbase, high racer. I think it's more commonly referred to as high roller. I think high racer is, I don't know, the category or type. And then there's this other one here called the Spirit. And I'm going to be combining aspects of both plans. Please excuse the curled paper here. Unfortunately, I had this in sitting underneath something and ended up curling the pages. But anyway, so between the two plans, this is going to be the primary plan that I'm going to be working with. As you can see, both wheels are the same size. They're 26-inch wheels in this plan. This plan, the wheels are different sizes. The rear is 26 and the front, I believe, is 24. But and also another key difference between the two plans is that on this plan, the rear fork is actually created from scratch. That's square tubing back there that is on that bike. Whereas on this bike, I know it's black and white, so it's kind of difficult to tell. But on the rear, the rear fork is actually a front fork flipped around. Ooh, pardon. And then welded in place. So those are the differences between those two plans. And another major difference that I'm going to be making is that my bicycle is going to be made out of aluminum instead of steel. Now these bikes, they're made with 16 gauge steel, which is the equivalent of, alright, let me wait for this airplane to go over. Come on. Alright. So these are made with 16 gauge tube steel. And 16 gauge is 1/16 of an inch. And a general rule of thumb when working with aluminum, if you're using a plan for steel, is that if you could double the thickness of aluminum, and it will be roughly the same strength as steel, and it will still be about 25 to 30% lighter. So that's why when I grab my aluminum, instead of 1/16 of an inch, double that, and you have 1/8 of an inch. So that's that right there. So that's one of the big differences. My bike, I'm not going to be using a front fork for the rear. Instead, I'm going to be fabricating the rear just like on this bike for my rear fork, because all the aluminum front forks that I could find, they're made out of 7005 aluminum. And I'm going to be building this bike out of the aluminum that I could find in this area, which is 6061. So I'm a little apprehensive of welding 705 aluminum to 6061 because of the dissimilar metals. So instead of using an aluminum fork for my rear fork, I'm going to be fabricating my own fork, just like on this bike here. So initially my plan was I was going to use some square channels, 1.5 by 3/4 of an inch channel for the rear fork, and this was my first attempt. The welds turned out not so good, and as a matter of fact I ended up burning a hole through one of the channels. So rather than trying to salvage this, I just used it as practice material. So I welded a couple more channels to it to get some practice in. I also practiced on some some other things to try to get my welds better. As you can see, that middle weld right there was the last weld that I practiced with on this piece, and it's much better than my other welds, the middle one. So I believe that I got a little better. Of course, I'm nowhere near, as good as professionals, but you know what? I'm not a professional. I'm an amateur. All that I need to do is to make welds strong enough to hold me up. And if they're ugly, then I could always do the old amateur trick, and that's just grind them down. And then if they're really bad, I could grind them down and then re-weld them. So this is my second attempt of using the channel, and it's much better, but I still wasn't very happy with it. Oh, by the way, this first attempt, something else that I did was I tested its strength. I took it, put it in a vise, and hit it with a hammer. You could see on there, where I had it clamped in the vise, and I just beat the living daylights out of it with a hammer. And I found that the metal itself, you could see the divots there from me hitting it with a hammer. The metal itself just bent. I bent it back into shape. But the good news is that the metal bent, but the welds didn't break. So even though my welds are ugly, I have confidence in them that they'll be strong enough to hold this bike together. So that was my practice piece there, and then, like I said, I wasn't happy with this one. So I started working on a third rear fork, and that is this right here. And this time, when I went over to Blue Collar Supply, they didn't have inch and a half. They did not have 1.5-inch square tubing. The plan calls for 1.5-inch square tubing for the main boom and also for creating the rear fork. But they did have 1.25 inch. So I do have enough 1.5 to make the main boom, but I don't have enough to make the rear fork. So I got 1.25 inch, and of course, the difference between 1.25 and 1.5 is 1/4 inch. And I did some math in my head and realized that, hey, you know what? If I carve a channel into this 1.5 inch and leave 1/8 of an inch on each side, that's the thickness of the metal. So that's what I did. So right here, I carved a channel. So there's 1/8 of an inch on each side. And then of course on this, I notched it, cut that notch out, and guess what? It fits in there perfect. So the good news is that it works. The bad news is that it takes a lot more prep time. It's taken me literally about 2.5 hours to use my file, use my angle grinders and everything to get it to this, and I'm not too happy with this because, as you can see, there's still a pretty big gap there between the parts fitting. So I'll file on it a little bit more to get that to fit better. My other pieces, it was a lot easier. I just take it over to the cut-off saw, just zip, cut it real quick, and then I'm ready to start welding in about just an hour or so. So that is really quick, really easy. So instead I put significantly more effort into this. I believe that this will also make a stronger join because the mating surfaces are much larger, and just because of the physical layout of it, I think it will be stronger just for that reason as well. So that's where I am now. When I work on it some more, then I will update this. I'm going to be breaking for the day, and then hopefully the next time that I upload a video, this will be I'll be done with the prep work, and if I have good prep work, I should end up with good strong welds. All right, so until next time, goodbye.